Today's part of our Business Spotlight program, I'm with Douglas Ahern. He's the managing director of Joseph Doyle Architects, and they're based in Dunleary, County Dublin. So over to you, Douglas. What is it you do, and for how long have you been doing it?
So, as you said, yes, I'm the managing director of Joseph Doyle Architects, and I've only recently taken this position. My predecessor, Joe, has had an illustrious career there of about 30 plus years, leading his own practice here, the commercial architectural based practice. And I've taken that position over now in the last few months. I've been a director here for a few years now. And what we do is we work predominantly with commercial clients, the retail sector, investor groups, a mix of kind of that area, some manufacturing as well. And we do a bit of residential architecture as well, but large scale residential architecture,
Hmm.
mixed units and such. And yeah, so we kind of have a nice little setup down here. We're based in Dunleary, as you said, and it's quite nice. I suppose it's a nice place to be in the world, and yeah, we like it.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you've been growing over this period. What would you attribute your growth to?
I suppose it's two-phase really as well. We've grown and shrunk with the over the 30 years with being the crashes and that and a few other external factors, but our growth predominantly in the last few years has just been probably our culture. We've had
Hmm.
0% realistically turnover in staff. We've had great retention of staff. We've culture from I think six, seven, eight different nationalities, and it's really nice to have that. And we established kind of a nice, kind of welcoming culture in the office. We don't do what is stereotypically the 60 plus hour architectural industry. We do our 9 to 5:30. Yes, myself, I'd probably exceed that. Try not to, if you need to. But the team, they come in at the time they want, at the normal time, they'll leave, and they have that work-life balance. But that's great. And I suppose one of the big factors in terms of our growth these days is we now form part of a much larger organization of multidisciplinary companies that offer a wide range of services from project managing, civil structure engineering, environmental planning, etc., etc. There's about 10 different sectors we're in, which means that we have the ability to go to clients not as architects, but we can also go to clients with an offering of we can be here for you as an architect if that's what you want. However, we can also offer you our sister companies, which will offer a full suite, and you have a single point of contact there rather than having to go out and find your QSs, your CME guys, your civil structural team, your planning consultants, and pull them all together yourself as a client. So as an offering, it's quite a strong unit, and for clients, they seem to love that ability to just focus on one person, one entity. So that's huge to us now. As I said, it's only something we've just started about 2 years ago, and since then, the growth has been exponential, and it's fantastic so far. So yeah, no, we're happy with that, I think, and clients seem to be too, which is great.
So it's the original one-stop shop. Yeah,
There you go.
fantastic, fantastic. If you had to start from square one in business, what would you do differently?
Suppose effectively we have started from square one. I suppose Joe's practice would have been 30 years as a sole practitioner. He's gone up, he's gone down, he's adapted, he's survived and done so by being, fantastic what he is and playing with a straight bat with everybody. And we have effectively started from scratch. So we're bought out by this company. We align to the core team or the wider group's synergies and kind of culture that we're trying to establish. And in doing so, we've kind of wiped the slate fresh and then taken it not as what architects would do, but what as the discipline as a whole does. We took that traditional architectural practice away where it's all about the architecture, the detail and all that stuff, and looked at what as a group we need to be doing to ensure that our clients are getting what they need. Um, I suppose one of the things I would always suggest going forward, and I've done so to my wife and others in the professional industries, architects are commonly considered as not the greatest business people. We're very detail oriented in an aspect, but we also love looking at door details for too long. And that can be the downfall, I think, as a perception. I think we're fail rate in architecture is about 55, 60%.
Well,
which is quite substantial. And again, a lot of that is attributed to we work at a loss. We work in small housing projects, people's extensions, new houses, stuff, and your profits are small. Your relationships with your client are long lasting, and that's very hard to kind of stop a process and say, look, this is your cutoff point.
mm,
So we lack, I think, through that evolution, we lack that kind of bit of business we should do. So one of the things I did as part of this kind of reorg was that I went back to university. Never thought I would. I think I've three separate times I've been to university. Did
fantastic.
a bachelor's degree and then I did a master's and I did another master's and I said, okay, that's it, I'm done. But no, as a suggestion from the group was that we do this UCD, do a leadership and management course. And I did it through the professional academy, which I thought was fantastic because it allowed me to do so whilst maintaining a full-time job. It was on demand. The speakers and the pre-recordings and everything were brought from some fantastic speakers there. And that made you think differently about what business is. It didn't really matter what you were in, you could apply it to everything.
Mm,
Made you think differently about culture, about psychology, about business as a whole, about you as a leader, and what type of leader you are, what type of personalities you have under you, and how best to interact with those people. And that was a real groundbreaker for me because I think my sense of reality and your sense of reality are two different things. What you think is right is not necessarily what I think is right. With architecture, we have huge egos by being designers, and you need to sometimes, as the kind of team lead or as a director or as managing director in my position, sometimes put what you think and your sense of reality aside for a moment and think of the person that you're speaking with, be it your client, be it your team, and see, how are they approaching something or where are they coming from with their problem, their issue, whatever, and trying to relate to them rather than trying to just force an idea at them, which I think a lot of architects and many people in business will do. And then I think that's your downfall. Relationships, I think, are critical.
so the culture, I mean, you've mentioned a few times, and
Mm,
I'm kind of a believer in lifelong learning. I do invest maybe 20, 30 grand a year in my education because one
mm.
thing about the market that it's consistent is that it'll change.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you have to stay ahead of the market all the time. And the fact that you went back again to get that extra skill set, I suppose. But
Mhm.
just going back to the culture and psychology, I mean, having a work-life balance for your team. What else is involved in your culture there that you feel is working?
So with the kind of recent changes, was over the 18-month period alone, we would have been full time in the office 9 to 5:30. That would have been the standard structure to the office. Everybody within the same space. Everybody would have been reporting directly to the person above them. What we have now and what we've introduced, and we're evolving this as we go, as we learn and see what works best, is we now have flexible working charters, which allows the team to come in at their own decision. We don't say, no, you can't, no, you can't do that. We try and allow it to their own decisions so they can come in later or they can come in earlier and they can respectfully leave earlier or later as to when they start, which gives them the flexibility. And especially because we're a young enough team here, in the 30s, where people have, viewings, you're renting an apartment, viewings are always at the worst time ever. Gym appointments, bookings, restaurants, whatever you want to do, it works. We wouldn't have had remote working previously. It's not something we had. We had it during COVID. We all did. And now we have remote working as a kind of optional within the month. There's a couple of days that we have it at one at the moment. We're going to increase that as we go. Um, in terms of other culture things, in terms of benefits, we do an annual event with our wider group, which is fantastic. It means the team can meet with different disciplines, have those conversations, learn, grow. We also do quarterly events. That always changes. We kind of put it to the team, give a few options and say, do you want to do this, that, or the other? Or sometimes they come with a wild one and say, well, we'd like to do a barbecue. It's been sunny for a few months. So the previous one was a barbecue in our back garden here in the offices in Dunleary, which was lovely because the weather was nice. Um, and we had one of the team out on mat leave at the time, so she came back to visit us with her newborn, which was lovely as well.
That was
Um, and yeah, there's quite a few other things we do as well just to do it. We have CPDs. as architects, we have to do CPDs in general, but we try and do CPDs that are interesting, do lunch and learns so they can do nice events. There's an architecture thing called open house, which is where you can view some nice projects, get into those projects, which will otherwise be closed off to you. And yeah, so more obviously, but it's kind of the bulk of it.
And the impact of all this work on culture, is that having a positive effect on the whole sales and profitability of the business?
It does. It genuinely does. And I think, well, because we're pushing so much and we're doing so much work, profitability is always good. And that's fantastic for the business. But I think when you see the team coming in and you sense that they're not coming in going, good God, it's Monday. I don't want to be here. I've been in those positions in the UK and you're like, oh, this is long, this is tedious. But they come in, people are happy, they have their breakfast in the morning, sitting in front of the computer, and they have great conversations. They're all in kind of open plan office space there. And as a result, when they're happy and they're engaged in the project and they feel they have an ownership on something, I think ownership is an important one. People need to know, be it they jump around projects, that they own it and they have kind of some sense of it. An important bit for us as architects is trying to get those people to those projects because sometimes they're stuck in a back room drafting and they never get to see those projects unless they drive there themselves. One of the big things for me is to try and bring the team to those sites. And that doesn't always work. Some of them are very far away, but you'd still try and do it. So we had a lovely project just open for Tesco Ireland in Fermoy there. Nice £20 million project for them. It's well received in the towns, doing very well. It looks great. And the architecture who worked on it hadn't had a chance to get down there because it is that 7-8 hour round trip. So we went down there last Friday just to have a look at it. So she got a chance to actually physically see it. Other ones you can get more frequently too. So it's giving everybody a sense of ownership on something, but also respecting that they're more than just there to tick a box and produce a drawing.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and we find, I think, when we study people who are, as you say, happy coming to work, engaged, they can be up to 3 times more productive than somebody who, as you say, who's saying, "Oh my God, it's Monday." You know?
Exactly, exactly. And you always get that person. It doesn't matter how great that is, you get that person, but then that's that person's personality. That's they fall into that category, but then they still are happy in some format and kind of try and help them and see what you can do for them. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, fantastic. So you touched a bit on it there, but what have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began in business?
I suppose I've touched on this now, so but I'll just briefly say is that one is that as an architect, I needed to understand business better, and that UCD course allowed me to do it, and just to get that grip on the financial, the business, the BD, the marketing, the growth, which would otherwise have been alien to me, um, which was a huge learning, and I thought that was important. As I said earlier, the sense of self and that sense of reality to yourself, understanding you need as a leader to be able to park that, put that to one side, come into the office and know, and you don't always do it. And I'm not, I was admit I'd fail those things every now and then. You come in, you just forget that for just a split second, but sometimes that can be the worst second. But, as long as you can say, do better, keep trying, keep learning, keep evolving. So when you come in, that you're there, you're dealing with your team, you're dealing with your clients, try and see what their problem is, what their issue is, and resolve that as best you can. And don't be afraid to fail. Um, I suppose one of the other ones that I haven't mentioned that's kind of coming at us now is AI. And I say coming at us as it's past us. So it's not really getting ahead of it anymore. I think there's this fantastic book there called The Coming Wave, and it discusses the kind of the realms of AI and where we're going with it. Some aspects are dark, some aspects are quite optimistic, but AI is something we never live with, and it's going to be in the next, say, plus 5 years. If you look into it, it's going to become a huge part of what we all do. As architects, our team embrace it. We were just discussing it earlier, how we can now render through AI rather than having to physically model it. We can program it with some scripts and images and such. So just evolving it, embracing it, and trying to see the benefits from that. I
Yeah,
suppose that was a big one, I suppose, for everybody.
yeah, I'm running a webinar with a IT guy that I know, and it's business growth, which is what we're all about, which is why I do these
Mm.
interviews, and the practical application of AI and SMEs. So we're running a webinar on the 9th of September at 2 o'clock for that. I'm inviting everybody who's been on these calls to come along to it. It's about an hour. And again, we'll have practical examples of this is how it's been applied. This is what's working in
Mm.
SMEs across the board, But yeah, you're absolutely right. AI is here. No, it's
Yeah,
always been there. It's just ChatGPT made it popular, and the marvelous marketing that they did to get that out to everybody. I mean, AI goes back to 1959, apparently, I'm
I
told.
was going to say actually, my wife works in AI and that kind of aspect of corporation, and she only told me recently that yes, it is nearly 50 plus years older effectively, and how long it's been sitting around. So we
Mm.
all react to it being a new thing, and generative AI and all these different formats of AI that we're probably not aware of, but how they all come together. It's fascinating, I think.
Well, the tools are just fantastic. I see a lot of different businesses in my business, and the tech savvy people are embracing it. It's saving a lot of money on the whole admin side,
Mm,
making money on the whole website, digital marketing, sales. It's just phenomenal. The tools are out there. But
yeah.
so yeah, that's exciting. The whole thing is just, I think it's going to be brilliant over the next while.
I think so. Like we embrace Copilot, I suppose, and I use Copilot constantly in business because it just allows me to integrate across that whole 365 suite, which is my day to day. It's my Teams, Outlook, etc., etc. As I said, our software we use, which is a BIM 3D software, now the latest versions of that have the integration within the software. So it's just pulling all that together, I
Yeah.
guess.
The kind of way I say it, and I'm sure somebody will hit me over the head about it, it's
Mm.
taking out the grunt work. And
Yeah.
basically you can get a lot of value at it rather than doing sort of, if you like, the old what we used to call data entry, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's going to be fantastic. Just looking again, you touched on it earlier, but how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
I suppose first and foremost, as I just mentioned, my wife's in a kind of similar high stress position where her demanding job means she understands that place. But I suppose we do have that kind of mutual relationship where we do talk about work. And we kind of, we get home at night and there's something bugging you or stressing you. We will talk about it, and it's just having somebody that understands that culture you live in and that kind of high stress, high pressure area, but then has the ability to kind of just communicate with you. But as I said earlier, we try and maintain that 9 to 5 working day or 9 to 5:30. And when that 5:30 comes, I do push because I have two young kids. I try and get home and have those 2 to 3 hours with the kids before they have to go to bed. So, we go home, play with the kids, have those moments because they are fleeting, as we all know, and enjoy that. And speak with my wife, get those kind of bits and detach yourself and vent if you need to, and make sure that she's equally supported, which is you kind of get bothered in, so you have to focus on those things.
Mm,
And from time to time, if I do have to have those bits that do follow me home, I personally focus on, and that's just the way it doesn't work for everybody, but I personally put that in a position where the laptop will sit in the bag until the kids have gone to bed and my wife is happy enough that that I can do that and make sure she's happy. But we go off and then I'll sit down, do the bit of work I need to do if I need to do, if it's critical for me at that time. But the real focus is making sure that you take that time to just step away. Learn that lesson the hard way. My mother was passed away early with cancer a
oh,
couple of years ago, and that understanding, life is fleeting. It's a very short window we have, and she was 59, so you can know, okay, it could be any moment in life, so you just got to make sure you live life when you can and take them up the best.
yeah, I know at seminars I can suck all the life out of the room by saying, the average innings, say about 80 years old,
Yeah,
which is getting better, but that's 4,000 weeks,
yeah,
and if you do rough sums, and
yeah,
how fast did last week go, and where are you on that scale?
yeah,
And because you're, oh.
yeah,
So do it to emphasize, yeah, time.
yeah,
If I lose money, I can go out and get more money. If I lose time, it's gone.
yeah,
And you talk about fleeting, like I'm a grandparent at this stage. I'm actually a bit like plastic. I'm being reinvented. I got a I recycle. I got a live-in grandson who's 16 now, and who's bigger than me at this stage. Yes. But yeah, the time just goes so quick. It's like
Yeah.
yesterday I was carrying around as a baby, sort of thing, you know. Just
Yeah, it is.
boom, they're gone. But yeah, okay. So again, what going back again to employees, what qualities do you look for in employees, and how do you foster? You've talked again about it, but how do you foster a positive, productive work environment? I suppose focusing maybe on the first part of that question, what do you look for when you're taking them in?
I look for a growth mindset. I think that's one of the things that we all need to look at. And I don't mean growth mindset in the context of somebody who always wants to learn and successes and stuff. People who are coming in and acknowledge that this is a smaller practice, but it's got opportunity, it's got potential. I'm willing to grow with that, but it has risk if it fails. But is willing to, as my predecessor Joe would say, is analogy that the ball bounces once, twice in life, and you need to be there to grab it. If you don't, it's gone. You don't have time to think about it. You just need to grab it. It could
Mhm.
be the worst decision, the best decision, but if you're willing to do it and embrace the fact that it could be the worst thing that happened, the best thing that happened, but if you're willing to try and fail and move on and learn from it, then that's it. And when we interview people, we kind of try and understand one culturally, will they fit? Will that person, irrespective of being, the Sterling Prize winning architect, they could be the biggest disruptor to the office. That's not a bad thing, but if they're a negative disruptor, that
Mhm.
will do more harm to the team and the culture, and then that has negative impacts. So the personality is important. Their experience obviously is critical, but their growth mindset, they're wanting to grow, to evolve, to accept they don't know everything.
Mhm.
Yes, you spent a decade of your life in education, 5, 10, 15, 20 years as an architect, but as I just pointed out, like I thought I was done with that, but I still went back and tried to educate myself. And I spend every day now on podcasts, on audibles, on reading various different things that don't relate to me, that I think don't relate to me, but they do, which is, as I said earlier, the coming wave was the recent one I just finished, which is very interesting to understand where that could impact all of us and us specifically. So, people like that, and then when they come in, they will add value, not as a tangible financial value, but they'll add value to the culture and they'll bring new things and new opportunities, new learnings.
Fantastic, fantastic. And just to round up, what are some common misconceptions about running a business, and how do you address them?
I suppose the biggest misconception is that entrepreneurs will be that entrepreneurs are it's an overnight success. You go out in business and you'll succeed. Everybody knows that kind of debunk the logic that success is overnight, that it happens, it's easy. I mentioned it again earlier that you're going to get it wrong, and you have to accept that. And it might never work, and it might not happen overnight. And the stars can align, and it can work. And there's a lucky few out there that has worked for. I think I'm probably one of them. I've been given an opportunity here, and I jumped on it because at the time in my life, I said, "There's an opportunity. I'm going for it." It was before we were bought out, and Joe was going to retire at some point, and I knew I'd have to take that opportunity, and it was a risk. Likelihood it could have failed, and we could have fallen away, but at least we would have got those few months. Um, but we got the opportunity of that wider group coming at us, which has then given me something that never could have imagined happened, which has been fantastic. But yeah, I think it's the misconception is that this is if you go out on your own, it's the easy thing, and architects are great for doing that. I think it's 2,000 or 2,500 sole practitioners off our architectural practices. Sorry, there's 2,500 architects or something in the country, and then like 1,800, 1,500 architectural practices, which almost means that you have a few one or two person practices, which are very small practices, but there's only so much work for those people because they can only do so much work. It's the big practices that will hold to 100, 150 staff, and that takes large chunks. So, it's you have to be very aware. I think you need to be aware of the what you're getting into and make sure you're educated. Make sure you know what you're getting into, and not just what you do as an architect or as an engineer or whatever, but that you understand business.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Mm.
Listen, Douglas, it's been great. There's some great stuff in there for our viewers. Really appreciate you taking your time out of a very busy week, and
Kevin, thank you.
and thanks again.
Of course, thank you.